Good morning, Wellspring, and everybody out in Zoom land. Well, for those of you who don't know me, oh, you all know me. I'm Vicki. I'm part of the team today that's going to put on an awesome service. We have a few announcements. Early Bird is still meeting on Zoom at 9:30, and you can find the email connection on our website. I just wanted to do a little plug here. We are getting close to finishing up the Untethered Soul. We have 3 more weeks, and then we're going to start The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And we did order some books, so if you'd like to pick up a book so that you can join the early bird discussion, they will be here October 15th. Thank you, Judy, for taking care of that. The upcoming speakers for October. On the 3rd, next week, will be Reverend Kamatara, live. On the 12th will be Bram Watkins. He hasn't been here for a while, so we look forward to welcoming him back. On the 19th will be Dr. Edward Burlbaugh. On the 24th will be a video, and Judy always does such a great job picking out videos for us. And then on Halloween, costumes optional, will be Peggy Shin. We want to let you know about the basic dowsing class that's going to happen on Saturday, October 9th from 1:30 to 4:30 over in the fellowship hall. And you may ask yourself, what is dowsing, divining, questing? It's a quest for information with the assistance of a device such as an L rod or a Y rod, a bobber, or a pendulum. And it's through means other than our 5 senses. It's what you saw your grandpa do with that forked stick down in the lower 40 looking for the perfect place to drill a well. And it does work. I just got a cue to stand closer to the mic. So anyhow, if you're wondering what dowsing's about and would like to learn more about it, come and join us on Saturday, October 9th, 1:30 to 4:30. Jean will go over a little bit of the research on how dowsing works and set up the proper programming to ensure reliable and clear dowsing, and most importantly, teach you the basics of dowsing and how to use your dowsing tools. She also does have pendulums and L rods and things available, bobbers available. And lastly, our prayer team is always here and ready to serve you and to support you. You may submit a request at the back of the sanctuary, or if you would like to contact Martha Ward or Geneva Collins with your prayer request. Our prayer team meets virtually every Tuesday afternoon to pray with you, and you may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time, because we know that we're all one in spirit and the energy knows no limits. And so now for the invocation, if you'd like to just get comfortable in your seat, or those of you at home in your jammies want to get comfy. Mother, Father, God, Great Spirit, the all that is in, through, and around each of us. We are grateful for this time to come together as a spiritual community in love and support of each other on our spiritual paths. We know that we give others permission as we allow our light to shine out into the world. And we say together, and so it is. And now, stand if you're able for our community song of joy, When the Red, Red Robin. Did that get you all bobbing? Yeah, yes. Well, have a seat. Everybody's already sat down. So. Please, let's say together our mission, vision, mission, and affirmation. Our vision, to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission, to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. And our affirmation. I see and acknowledge the presence of spirit in myself and others. I know that I am one with God who operates in, through, around, and as me. I am grateful for the abundant flow of love, health, and prosperity in my life. I respect all forms of life in the universe and in the world around me. And now we have the gift of music. We have a new song, and Judy will come up and help sing along. Barry's on the ivories, tickling the ivories.
Yes, real ivory.
The song is called Surely the Presence of Spirits in This Place. And we have a slight technical delay, so please be patient.
We're bringing up lyrics because everybody's going to join.
Everybody's going to sing along. Anybody know how many shopping days left till Christmas? Less than 100. It's going to come up fast. They've already had Christmas things out even before Labor Day. Happy Santa Claus Day. Anybody going to dress up for Halloween? She'll be out spooking people. She won't be here. That's okay, because they won't know who spooks them. So hey, how about them Yankees? Think they're going to win the pennant this year? When I moved here from Minnesota, and I saw how important sports were for folks, somebody asked me, well, you're from Minnesota, you must be a Viking fan. And I said, well, yeah, they're the ones that play baseball, aren't they? That's how much of a sports fan I am. And fortunately, all this ad-libbing can be cut out of the recording.
I will sing this as a solo.
I can sing solo, Judy, so low that you won't hear me.
We do have the slides, it's just in a different area.
And we may be using this song as a community song at a later time, so we will have an opportunity for everybody to take part in this. So take it away, Barry and Judy.
Am I live? Okay. All right. This is a very nice song. Lanny Wolf. Who's Lanny Wolf wrote it?
No idea.
Anyway, it's a very nice song called Surely the Presence of Spirits in This Place. In the midst of God's children, God spears with the bee. It doesn't take very many. It can be just 2 or 3, and I feel that same sweet spirit that I felt oft times before. Surely they can say the Spirit's with me, and what's more, let's do that again. Okay. In the midst of God's children, God's Spirit will thus be. Spirit's with me, and what's more, surely the presence of spirits in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. I can feel the brush of angel wings. I can glory on each face. Surely the power of spirits in this place. There's a holy brush around us as God's glory fills the place. I've touched the hem of God's garment. I can almost see his face, and my heart is overflowing with the fullness of God's grace. Surely I will sound spirits with me in every place. Surely the presence of spirits in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. I can feel the brush of angel wings. I can glory on each face. Surely the presence of spirits in this place. Surely the presence of spirits in this place. A little rough, but we'll get it. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Judy. That is a beautiful song. And I understand that Lanny Wolf is Mr. and Mrs. Wolf's child. Bump-a-dum. I'll be here all week, folks. Well, today's reading is from the 365 Science of Mind book, and I actually am going to read from today's entry. It's September 26th, all day long. I release every tension of mind and body. Today, I release all thoughts of fear from my mind. Today, I lay down the burden of carrying the load of responsibility of life for myself and for others. Today, I relax all sense of strain. I remember that Emerson said, "The universe remains at heart unhurt." And Jesus said, "Let not your heart be troubled." I know that I live under the government of good and am guided by Spirit. Therefore, I lay all trouble aside, seeking to look through it, beyond it, above it, to detach from the reality, to detach it from the realm of reality, to separate it from any consciousness that belongs to me or to anyone else, regardless of what my problem of the moment may seem to be. I align myself with the powers of goodness and of right action. I abide in perfect and complete faith in God as my ever-present good. I take up no arms to fight the negative. I turn from all fear, turn joyfully and resolutely to faith, realizing that light is immune to darkness, that the night has no power over the day, that dawn dissipates the shadows of midnight. I turn my attention to the light eternal without struggle, realizing that light, shining through the dark places of my consciousness, will dissipate them, and that I will walk in the light in which there is no darkness. Not only will I walk in this light, I will radiate it. I will impart it to others. I will remember the saying, Let your light so shine before all humans that they, seeing your good works, shall glorify Spirit, which art in heaven. I will remember that Spirit, which art in heaven, is that heaven which is within me. And so it is. And now would be the time that we would invite our speaker up. Our speaker is home recuperating. And so in lieu of Edward speaking today, we do have a video. It is a TED Talk, and it is about our own health.
A few years back, I was on a book tour for my book, Mind Over Medicine, and I was talking to big audiences like you all. And as a physician, I had done research on some, the conventional things that affect our health, but also some unconventional things. And the question I would get asked over and over again is, what is the greatest risk factor for your health? And I would say loneliness. And there would be dead silence in the room, just like there is here. And it took me a while to figure out that this was a really uncomfortable answer for a lot of people. People wanted me to say diet or exercise or maybe yoga or meditation or something that they felt like they could do and be proactive about. And people felt helpless in the face of their loneliness. And this helped me to realize that we need to start to pay attention to this. So I want to start by telling you a story, and then I'm going to give you some data to speak to your mind in case you don't believe me and you're feeling a little skeptical that loneliness could be this important, that it could actually be the #1 public health issue that we're facing right now. And then I want to speak to your heart, because that's really what this is all about. So let's go back to 1961, to Roseto, Pennsylvania. And Roseto, Pennsylvania, in 1961 was a very special place. It was filled with Italian immigrants who had come from the old world in Italy and had settled in this small town. And Dr. Stuart Wolf was the cardiologist from the University of Oklahoma. And he showed up in Roseto one day because he had a vacation home in the Poconos, and he was having a drink at the local bar with one of the doctors there. And the doctor there said, it's so strange. The people of Roseto, they never seem to get heart attacks. Well, he's a cardiologist, so this caught his attention. So he went and he checked out the death records, and sure enough, these people were not dying of heart disease. The people of Roseto had half the rate of heart attacks of the national average. There were no heart attacks in men under 65, and the death rate from all causes was 30 to 35% lower than average. So this was unusual. So Dr. Wolf called in a whole team of researchers, and they started researching these people to figure out what's going on here. And John Brune was one of these researchers, and he said there was no suicide, no alcoholism, no drug addiction, and very little crime. They didn't have anyone on welfare. Then we looked at peptic ulcers. They didn't have any of those either. These people were dying of old age. That's it. So they thought, well, it must be something in their diet. Maybe it's the olive oil. But they found out that the people in Roseto were eating meatballs fried in lard. They were eating pizza and pasta with egg and sausage. A whopping 41% of their calories came from fat. Many of them were morbidly obese. They didn't exercise, and they smoked. So you can imagine this cardiologist is going, wait a minute, what's this? So they thought, well, maybe it's something in their DNA. They went back and they checked their ancestors who came from Roseto, Valfiore in Italy, and they found those that had settled elsewhere in the US, but no, it wasn't that. They had the same rate of heart disease as everybody else in the US, and it wasn't their health care and it wasn't their water. They ruled out everything that they could, and they finally concluded that the people of Roseto had half the rate of heart disease and significantly lower rates of all other causes of death because the people in Roseto were never lonely. Let that sit for a minute. this doesn't have such a happy ending because like many people in our culture, you know, the children of Rossetto grew up and they wanted the American dream. They wanted to be modernized like everybody else. They didn't like living in this small community village where everybody lived in multi-generational homes. Grandma and the kids all lived together. They'd all go to work. They'd come home. They'd have celebrations. They'd go to church together. The Rossetto in 1961 was evidence of the power of the tribe. But by 1971, everybody had moved to the suburbs. They'd gone into their own little boxes. They had started separating from one another. They weren't living in multi-generational homes anymore. And in 1971, the first heart attack death in somebody less than 45 happened. High blood pressure tripled, strokes increased, and by the end of the 1970s, Rossetto had the same risk of heart disease as everybody else in the country. So Rossetto, we learned from them that human beings nourish each other, and the health of the body reflects this. Now, researchers have studied a lot of blue zones, and Rossetto was one of those blue zones. Blue zones are places on the globe where there's an unusual number of people who live to be greater than 100. And these are places like Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Loma Linda, California, Ikaria in Greece. And every single one of these blue zones, they lived like the people of Rossetto did. They live in community. They live in tribe. They know they belong. They grow up from the time they're little knowing that they're part of this tribe. And this has a physical health protection on the body. So how does this happen? Let's talk a little bit about the physiology of loneliness. We are tribal beings. We are supposed to be together. We come from love, and when we die, we go back to love. And the whole point of being human is that we're here to love each other. We're here to be together. And our nervous systems are wired that way. So when we feel socially isolated, then the nervous system goes into threat. And the limbic brain, the survival part of the brain, the really primordial brain, starts to freak out. It goes into the sympathetic nervous system, or what Walter Cannon at Harvard called the stress response. You may know it as the fight or flight response. And when the nervous system is in fight or flight response, the body fills with cortisol and epinephrine. These hormones put us at risk of heart disease and every other kind of illness. And we know that the body is beautifully equipped with natural self-healing mechanisms. We make cancer cells every day. We fight our own heart disease every day. We have natural longevity enhancements built into our bodies. But here's the kicker. Those natural self-healing mechanisms only work when the nervous system is in what Herbert Benson at Harvard called the relaxation response. This is the parasympathetic nervous system. When we know that we belong, when we can feel ourselves in love, in community, in tribe, then the nervous system relaxes. But you think about the single mom who's by herself trying to raise 3 kids and get to her job, and the kids are sick and she doesn't have any help, and what about her social life, and what about her self-care? Her nervous system is in stress response all the time. And this puts her at risk of disease and decreases her longevity. And we Americans, you know, we're only supposed to be in stress response when we're getting chased by a tiger. But evidence shows that we're in stress response more than 50 times per day, and lonely people are in stress response even more than that. So this is the part where I'm going to talk to your mind, in case you don't believe loneliness and health are related. Air pollution increases your mortality by 6%, obesity by 23%, alcohol abuse by 37%, loneliness by 45%. Loneliness is as dangerous for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. There was a study in Alameda County that showed that people with the fewest social ties were 3 times more likely to have died over a 9-year period. There was another study in UCSF of 3,000 women with breast cancer that showed that people who go through their cancer journey alone are 4 times more likely to die from their disease than those who have 10 or more friends. Lonely people have higher rates of heart disease, cancer, dementia, high blood pressure, diabetes, infection, anxiety, depression, insomnia, suicide, and alcoholism, addictions. There was one great study done by Harvard where they followed 700 men over 75 years to look at wellness and well-being in general. And Robert Waldinger, one of the researchers, said over and over these 75 years, our study has shown that the people who fared the best were the people who leaned in to relationships with family, with friends, with community. But 1 in 5 Americans is lonely. This is 60 million people. This is a massive public health epidemic. But when was the last time your doctor prescribed healing your loneliness as part of your wellness plan or as part of a healing journey? So what do we do about this? What is the cure for loneliness? Is it to get as many people in our social circles as possible? And if so, what about the introverts among us? I'm super introverted, right? Is it about quantity? Well, no, we know that. We know that you can feel lonelier in a crowd of others than when you're alone. So is it about having a significant something, a spouse, a child? But we know that nothing feels lonelier than feeling separate from the people that you love the most. So many of us have had those feelings of deep connection in nature. Is about that. And many of us have had intense spiritual experiences, mystical experiences, experiences in prayer or meditation. Is it about connection with the divine? Charles Eisenstein says that it stems from what he calls the story of separation. This, I think, is that primal wound that says, I'm separate from you. I'm separate from you. I'm separate from the trees and the stars and the oceans and the mountains. I'm separate from the people in Syria, from all of the people that are doing horrible things to our country right now. Those are other. Those are not connected to me. But it's also, I'm separate from that force of love that flows through us, that animates us, that's our very life force. That force of love that you might call the divine. Lissa Schumacher from Findhorn calls it othering, when I make you other. And she also talks about enemy making, right? When I separate myself and I say, oh, well, I'm separate from the terrorists. They're not part of me. We're not part of the same human family. I need to separate myself from them. This creates a deep existential loneliness inside of us. Brené Brown says the #1 barrier to belonging is fitting in. You know, if I'm feeling like I have to pretend to be something that I'm not in order to belong with you all, I'm going to feel lonely, even if I've got 1,800 people here in the room with me. But there's another way to do this. So what is the loneliness prescription? And I want to start by saying we don't know. We don't know. But here's some ideas that maybe we can play with and see if it resonates. And I want to give you a hint, because really it's a paradox. Healing loneliness is an inside job, but you can't do it alone. We need each other. And sometimes we need therapists and spiritual counselors and clergy. It starts with befriending yourself. As long as you're at war with yourself, with those inner voices that are telling you that you don't belong, that you're not lovable, that you're not enough, that you don't deserve to be part of a community, you're going to have a hard time magnetizing towards you the people that are right here to love you. We have to heal shame and perfectionism, not just in ourselves, but in how we relate to others. Because if I'm in shame and I'm hiding myself from you, or if I think I have to be perfect and I'm not allowed to reveal my vulnerabilities to you, I'm going to separate myself. And again, even if I'm surrounded by people, my nervous system's going to go into threat. It's going to put me at risk of disease. And as long as I expect you to be perfect, and I'm going to judge you or criticize you if you do something that I don't like, then I'm not going to be able to show up for you and know that you're part of my human family. We've got to own our stuff. That means we've got to get out of our victim stories, right? I've got to quit saying it's your fault. You did me wrong. You criticized me in some way. I'm separate from you. But instead, if I'm able to say, wow, I'm participating in the creation of my life. I know that I have childhood wounding and patterns and limiting beliefs. We all do. We all got programmed by our parents, no matter how well-intentioned. And I'm a parent myself, so I know that no matter how much we try, it's impossible for us not to end up as adults with some of those patterns. And we need to own those patterns. We need to start to see them. And it helps if we engage in spiritual practice. If we meditate, if we pray, if we spend time alone listening, then we start to get insights and epiphanies. We start to be able to see the patterns that we recreate in our lives. We're all so afraid of abandonment and rejection, of being judged and criticized. But a lot of that comes from childhood, and we actually can change that. We've been so traumatized, all of us, every human in this room, every human on this planet has had their own trauma. And trauma puts us into the story of separation and makes us forget that we belong to each other, that we're here to love each other. And when we're able to take time to engage in spiritual practice, it helps us remember the love that is available to us at all times, even when we're alone. We have to be vulnerable. I have to be willing to show you the parts of myself my friend Amy Ehlers calls my big ugly tail. You know, we all have it. And we're always trying to hide it. We're trying to stuff it back to make sure you don't see my big ugly tail. But if I'm brave enough to take risks and to show you my big ugly tail and to see if you'll love me anyway, then we start to build trust. And then I can maybe reveal something a little more vulnerable, and I can see whether that's safe. This helps us develop resilience, because sometimes I'm going to show somebody my big ugly tail and they're going to judge me. And they're going to be mean to me. They might reject me. And then I might be tempted to close my heart, to withdraw, to go back into the story of separation. But when we develop resilience, we actually get brave. And we start being willing to give other people permission to break our hearts, permission to betray our trust, because everybody's doing the best we can. But then the more I reveal and the more you trust me and the more I trust you, the more intimate we become, the more we develop resilience so that we can handle the occasional person who isn't conscious enough to meet us in that heart space. We also have to bench press our receiving muscles. Many of us are walking around surrounded by people who love us, and we can't even tell because we've put up this wall, we've got this armor. And when we take the armor down, we start to be able to open our heart and reconnect to that force of love that's flowing through me right now and pouring onto you, and flowing through you and pouring onto me. This allows us to hold space for others. Instead of judging and criticizing, holding space means we can be present. We can withhold judgment. We can trust that we're doing the best we can, all of us. It's hard to be human. We can listen generously without fixing. We can be with what's true for one another. And this lets us be willing to bear someone else's burden when we have enough to give, when we're so full of love that we have enough to give. Then we can start to be generous with our love. We can start to be somebody else's tribe instead of just thinking about, what do I want? What do I need? We have to remember that we're all connected in interbeing, that we belong with one another. Charles Eisenstein says, the science is beginning to confirm what we have intuitively known all along. We are greater than what we have been told. We are not just a skin-encapsulated ego, a soul encased in flesh. We are each other, and we are the world. So now I want to invite you to reach out and call in those friends of your soul. We are dehydrated fish swimming in a massive lake. There is love all around. It's right here. Loneliness is the siren of the soul, calling us back home to one another. But we're in the space between stories. So this is our chance. I want all of you to stand up right now and hold hands with the person next to you. Take a risk, get close. Be brave. Look, you've got tribe. Your community is right here. Right here. This is how far away love is. It's this far. It's right here. So I want to invite you all to hold hands as long as you want. And come back here anytime you want. And create your own soul tribes and find what you need. This is medicine, people. Thank you.
I invite you to continue holding hands. If you feel comfortable to close your eyes, just sit there, allowing the chair to support you in our tribal space of Wellspring community. We come together as one. That tribal love is in, through, and around all of us. And we know that our tribal members are here to support us. If we feel lonely, we can reach out, and we know that we will be embraced in the divine love that is in, through, and around each one of us. We may sometimes find ourselves alone, but we don't need to feel lonely if we allow our heart space to open to the ever-present love that is around us. We give great thanks for knowing that we have this spiritual community to support us, to be there for us along our spiritual journey. Just sit there for a moment and feel the love. Allow it to come in and fill you, knowing that you no longer need to be lonely because Spirit is here. Spirit is with you. Spirit supports you. We put these words into the law of mind, knowing that it is so, as we say together, and so it is. And now, Mr. Barry is going to entertain us and tickle the ivories some more. Thank you, Barry. That was beautiful. We, as Wellspring, as the tribe, acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts. We give thanks for the offerings already given and for those that are yet to come. And we receive them with great love and gratitude. We know that the giving and the receiving is all part of the one flow. And we affirm that we are also part of that flow. And we bless these gifts and know that they are multiplied throughout our community. And there's a number of folks that were involved, some very involved, in getting this service put together. Thank you, Judy. And thank you, everybody involved. It is an honor to be of service to our beloved Wellspring. And lastly, if you'd like to stay around on Zoom to visit or join us over in the fellowship hall, there's some lovely cookies over there. Ice cream in the fridge. Okay, so if you'd please stand and read with me the benediction followed by our congregational song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world, and so it is. Now for the peace song.